So when I was about 6 years old, a psychologist asked me really slowly, "Scotty, what do you want to be when you grow up?" And without skipping a beat, I said, "Oh, I got this. I want to be a psychologist, and I want to give a talk someday in front of lots and lots of people." I think he might have fallen off his chair when I said that. Unfortunately, instead of signing me up for the next TEDx, they told my parents, and my dad's here, he can vouch for this, they told my parents that I had delusions of grandeur, and they shipped me off to special education. By the age of 3, I had 21 ear infections. As a result, I developed a learning disability called central auditory processing disorder, which made it very difficult for me to process auditory input in real time. I always felt one step behind the rest of the kids. And frustrated, I retreated into my own world, which was rich in imagination and fantasy. But unfortunately, it was just an indication to everyone of my learning disability. I was bullied a lot. This is the picture of one of my bullies, who I follow on Facebook, but don't tell him that. In 5th grade, I did very poorly on an IQ test because I was so nervous during the testing session. I think my sweat was overflowing the table. They sent me to a special school for children with learning disabilities where I was bullied even more because the kids apparently didn't feel as though I was learning disabled enough to be there. So that was very frustrating. And then when I returned to public school in 6th grade, I felt as though I was capable of more intellectual challenges. But who was I to question the authorities? Until one day in 9th grade, everything changed. I remember this day very vividly. I was sitting there taking an untimed history test because they used to force me to leave. How humiliating was that, right? I had to leave the regular classroom. Everyone watched me leave the regular classroom so I could take an untimed test in a special room. So I was sitting there taking this untimed history test, and my mind kept wandering to the advanced biology classroom that I desperately wanted to take, but they would not let me take this class. I looked up and saw a special education teacher who I'd never seen before that day. She must have been covering for the regular teacher, staying there, staring at me quite quizzically. Well, of course, I panicked, and as she started walking towards me, I thought I was in trouble. I was like, "Oh my God, am I not acting learning disabled enough again?" But when she approached my desk, I will never forget what she said. She said, "I see you. I see your frustration. Why are you still in special education?" And I started, to answer, and then I realized, wait a minute, I have no reasonable answer to that question. And it was like a switch went off. Right after class, I ran to the payphone, I called my mom. I said, "Mom, I am not returning to special education tomorrow." To which she responded, "Okay, honey, we'll talk about this when you get home." Well, the next day, I announced my intention to leave special education. We had a big meeting with my parents, the school administrators, and they decided to let me out on a trial basis. That's what I still have the IEP, which I saw it. They said trial basis. Well, once I was out, once I was free, I thought to myself, well, what am I actually capable of achieving? Am I capable of achieving something? So I approached my grandfather, who was a cellist with the Philadelphia Orchestra for 50 years. He was retired at that point. And I said, "Gramps, would you teach me how to play cello?" And he was delighted. And I practiced about 8 hours a day. Those were the most amazing moments of my life where I had discussions with my grandfather about the days when he was in the orchestra and traveled around the world to China. My mom used to walk by, always used to say, "Harry," which was his name, "teach him cello." And we would laugh because we enjoyed just talking, as well as taking lessons. And by the start of the school year, I had joined the high school orchestra. And by graduation, I was second cellist, which means I beat out a lot of people who've been playing since elementary school. Oh, thanks. I hope none of them are in this room, or else that'd be awkward. Yeah. And somehow, thanks to my musical accomplishments, I got accepted to Carnegie Mellon University, where I battled my way up the echelon of academia. And in 2009, I got a PhD in cognitive psychology. And, well, what do you know? I'm standing here on a stage giving a talk to a lot of people. Thank you. That really means a lot to me. So these early childhood experiences set off with a fascination with the importance of passion and inspiration in the development of creativity. In one of the longest studies ever conducted on the topic, E. Paul Torrance found that an excellent predictor of a wide range of indicators of creativity, from personally meaningful creativity to publicly recognized creativity, was the extent to which people fell in love with a dream, an image of their future when they were a child. In fact, this was a better predictor of long-term creative achievement than scholastic promise and IQ tests. Research continues to support the importance of passion and inspiration. And what has become quite clear is that while passion matters, the flavor of passion that you have matters even more. So people who are obsessively passionate about their activity tend to have this uncontrollable urge to engage in their activity. They haven't integrated that activity well into their identity because they don't know when to stop, and they tend to have a vulnerable, unstable ego. In contrast, harmonious passion, people who are harmoniously passionate about their activity, feel intrinsic joy when they're engaging in their activity. They report that their activity reflects the qualities that they like about themselves. So it's very well positively integrated into their identity. Another major characteristic I want to talk about is inspiration. Inspiration transforms us from a state of apathy to a state of possibility. Researchers have identified 3 core aspects of inspiration. First, inspiration appears to be spontaneous. Usually, inspired people are inspired by something, whether it's an inspiring role model, teacher, or even subject matter, which is all the more reason why I think we need to create the conditions for inspiration. Second, inspiration is transcendent. So inspired people tend to have a moment of clarity and awareness in which they suddenly see new possibilities for themselves as well as others. Third, inspiration involves an approach motivation, where the person is inspired to actualize and transmit and express a new vision or idea. Now, I personally can attest to the power of inspiration. I have no doubt that in 9th grade, when that special education teacher came up to me and caused me to question my place in that hierarchy of the school system, was I inspired to reach higher heights of creativity. Fortunately, I only saw her that day. Can you believe it? I didn't see her the rest of high school. So 2 years ago, I decided I was going to track her down, and with the help of some of the other teachers at my high school, I tracked her down, found she was principal at a middle school. I wanted to thank her, and I would like to introduce you today to Joyce Jewell. The woman who inspired me. She actually texted me this morning and wished me good luck on my talk today. How awesome, freaking awesome is that? That's amazing. I just want to ask you a question. What if every child had a Joyce Jewell in their lives who helped them see greater possibility in themselves and then helped them integrate that into the core of their identity? I want you to imagine a world where instead of telling children who score below some arbitrary cutoff on a standardized test, no dream for you, or that person's got delusions of grandeur, we had dream directors who took every single child's dream seriously, no matter how big or how small, and helped them get there whatever it takes. In essence, imagine a world in which we shift from a culture of evaluation to a culture of inspiration. I know that we'd be pleasantly surprised by just how much creativity is possible in everyone. Thank you.